All right, welcome back, fellow Jazz Bums. Today we have a special episode. We are here with Kevin Gray, Cory Weeds, and Joe Harley. We're going to talk about Cory's new album on Cohearent Records. Before we do, remember to like and subscribe. Also, drop a comment. Let us know what you think about Cohearent Records and this album in general. We also have the Jazz Bums Discord, so we'll drop an invite in the description below. So come and hang out with us there. And we live stream every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, so come and join us there as well. All right, with that, I'm going to kick it over to Felipe to get us started.
Thank you so much, Mike. Tonight's guest, Cory Weeds, is a saxophonist who studied at University of North Texas and Capilano University. He's a pioneer, founder, and owner of the Cory Weeds Cellar Jazz Clubs in Vancouver. Cory, of course, is originally from British Columbia. He's not only a club owner, a successful musician, producer, record label owner. So he started Cellar Music, which has been successfully recording a lot of his own albums and many other new ascending artists, great music, that has been a producer as well. The label has released more than 250 records, and I believe Cory has been producing more than 200 of them. So after the closing of the Cellar, he's been working the Frankie's Jazz Club in downtown Vancouver. He also have yearly weeks, New York with weeks, tourings and counting for many years, and a fantastic work, huge fan of Cellar Music and a supporter. And now he records his own record for a different label, for Coherent Audio with Kevin Gray. So let's talk about this adventure, this sort of diversion there, and how everything went. And of course, you're going to be joined by producer Joe Harley and label owner, master, cutting engineer, everything, the great friend of ours, Kevin Gray, as well. Guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome, Cory. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks for having us.
And let's have some fun. Thank you so much for joining.
Great to be here.
Of course, I know a little bit how this whole approach, a reunion of yours happened. So, Cory, what was your reaction when you got Kevin Gray's email? And and Kevin, why going after Cory? How did this work for you guys?
It was funny. Like you said, the story, but for the listener, I'll tell you that I worked, or Kevin has done some work for my archival label. And so, but we've never met. I don't think we might have talked on the phone really briefly, but I would just send him my stuff and then he would send it to where it needed to go. And then he would send me an invoice and I would pay him. There was never any need to talk, other than to say hello, but it just, we were an online business relationship. And I got a very cryptic email from Kevin one day saying, "Are you Cory Weeds, the tenor saxophonist?" And it took me a minute to I'm like, of course that's me. Like, how many Cory Weeds are there in the world? Like, it's a pretty unique name. So I said, yes, I am. And then I didn't hear back for a little while. And I can't remember if I think I reached out and said, "Hey, remember that email? Like, I'm Cory Weeds. Like, what's up?" He's like, "Would you like to make a record with me?" And I think my immediate response was, why? Like, why would you want me to make a record for you? So that's essentially how it started. And the idea, I was very excited by the idea. I was skeptical only because I was so rooted in my label. And, as you'll probably learn if you haven't already, I'm a relatively self-deprecating Canadian. And I was just like, why would you pick me when you could pick literally anybody you want? It's not like he was saving money by doing it with me, or like, what? You could do whatever you want. And so I quickly became very flattered and very honored. And I felt like this incredible opportunity had been bestowed on me. And so I wanted to take advantage of it the best way I could. And Kevin and Joe seem really thrilled with the results, and that's the best thing in the world for me. So I was thrilled. It was a really great experience from start to finish. So yeah.
So one thing I should mention, the name of the album is Dig Weeds, and it's out April 18th. You'll be able to get it through the InGroove as well as Acoustic Sounds and the other online sellers. Is that right?
Right. I should probably fully disclose here. It looks like we've gotten a delay. Stoughton has had some technical problems with their machinery, and they told us it was going to be a couple more weeks. So we're looking more like probably the end of April.
Okay, end of April. Good to know. So to Cory's point, Kevin, leading up to that email to Cory, what was kind of the decision-making process on your end before you reached out?
Well, it was very interesting when Kirsten Edkins was doing her record. She kind of did a bit of a media blitz to get radio play, and so I was getting the jazz chart, and Cory's record was like number one and number two several weeks, and I was like, "Wow!" That's when I reached out. I said, "Are you the Cory Weeds, the tenor player?" In all honesty, I hadn't heard the record yet. Okay, and but I was like, oh wow, he's got a record at the top of the jazz charts. This guy's got to be somebody, as a sax player. And so but what was really funny, and Cory wrote it up in the liner notes, but my granddaughter was picking me up someplace, and she's become a huge vinyl buyer and a huge jazz freak, and she's 19, just started college this year.
Awesome.
And she says, "Hey, Grandpa, I know your taste pretty well. I got something here I think you're going to really like." And she hits play in her car. And of course, it comes up on the screen, Cory Weeds. And it was his song, Blue Daniel. And I was knocked out. I just kind of went, wow. I don't mean his song. I mean his take. You didn't write it, but yeah, your recording of it. And I was just knocked out. And so I thought, all right, I got to give this guy a call like right now. So I called him that day.
Cory, you agreed to this. Joe, when did you get involved in the project? Was this at the early stages? I know that you and Kevin, obviously are close and kind of work together in terms of decision makings and things like that. But when did they pull you in?
It was early on. I had heard his name, but honestly, I hadn't heard Cory's music. But I, as he says, it's a name you don't forget. And so I'd heard the name. Kevin mentioned him, and then I started to listen and do a little research. And I thought, okay, this cat's clearly has an appreciation of Hank Mobley. Clearly, there's a they called Hank the middleweight champ, and Cory kind of works in the middle range. That's not the right way to put it, but he has, you can tell, great appreciation for Mobley, and Kevin's a Mobley freak. I'm a Mobley freak. And so I think within hours I said, this is great. I'm down. Yeah, let's do this.
Well, I tread kind of lightly on it because I knew that Cory mostly self-produced. And so very shortly after contacting Cory, I said, by the way, I've been working with Joe. We work on all the Tone Poet stuff, of course. And Joe produced the last record, Anthony's record, for Coherent. And so I said, I'd really like to use him if that's okay with you. And at first he was a little, but he came around.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was two things. Well, it was twofold. One, I knew who I was using in the band, and we kind of had a working relationship, and I was a little concerned is not the right word, but I was a little trepidatious as to how that would work. But the main reason is really, I'm going to have Joe, who spends his days mining the vaults and remastering Hank Mobley records and all my guys, Clifford Jordan and Dexter Gordon and Stanley Turrentine, and then you're going to sit through 5 hours of listening to me play. It was I felt very uncomfortable with the whole setup, and it took a lot of hey man, you're not any of those guys that you mentioned. Joe knows you're not those guys that you mentioned, and Joe's not expecting you to be those guys that you mentioned. He's expecting you to be Cory Weeds, and I'm sure, at least I would hope, that if Joe listened, he would and didn't like what he heard or thought it was a bad decision, that he would advise Kevin accordingly, and we wouldn't be having this conversation today. So it took me a minute to get out of my own head and just be like, yeah, actually, I would really love a producer there, because I probably, I'm thinking that in the early days, those guys just wanted to go in and record and get their money and go do their thing. I'm sort of the same way. Like, I'll play, and if there's something I really hate or I really don't like, I'll bring it up. But I was happy to just go, if you're happy, I'm happy. I don't, because then I can just concentrate on doing what I'm doing. I don't have to worry about that note or that, you know, I'm like, if you guys think it's good, I'm cool. And so it was a big relief for me to be able to have that, especially given the situation in which we're recording. It was very important.
You gave us your best Cory Weeds. What can I say?
Yeah. So Cory, you're playing with your quartet in this record with David Hazeltine, Neil Miner, and Byron Lanham on drums. And David, from your previous recordings, is a constant presence there.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that you already had the band set up. So how was this? Okay, this is my band. This is what I'm going to play. Did you guys have any discussion? You had everything like right?
Well, I mean, yeah. So because of the concept of the recording, in that you're all in the same room, which David Hazeltine is not a huge fan of, but when you're in the same room and you're going, there's no editing involved. I mean, you know, there could have been some editing involved if we really needed to, but essentially it was live off the floor, just like they used to do it. Mm-hmm. I needed somebody that I was very comfortable with, and B, that was going to kind of roll with the punches and not get flipped out about the concept and not be. I didn't need another me in the room. I needed a confident, you know, I needed a confident guy. So he was my first choice.
He was great.
Yeah, and he was great. And then Neil, and then so, you know, I'm not one of these guys that will pick the individual people and be like, I want him, and him. I said to Dave, who do you think? Like, how about Neil? Because he plays with Neil a lot, and I love Neil. Great, Neil. And then we had a little bit of trouble kind of deciding on the drummer. And I think it was me that said, what do you think of Byron Landham? And Dave was like, oh my God, I can't believe we didn't think of him. That is the guy. And I feel in that recording situation, he was the X factor, because he immediately came in, looked at the room, looked at what the setup was going to be, and went, okay, I need to do it this way. And not every drummer would do that. Not every drummer would be like, well, I'm just going to bang and crash and do my thing and you figure it out. Byron really was what's the word, sympathetic or empathetic to the situation, and played accordingly, which made it easier for all of us. So we had the band, and then the material was, I wanted to write a couple of things. And I'm not what you would call a prolific writer. So I kind of write ideas, and then I give them to a piano player like Dave, and he says, oh, what about this? I'm like, I don't like that. What about this? I don't like that. Oh, that's the chord I want. Yeah, this is what I feel. So we worked up a couple of originals. Dave had a great arrangement of, it's the tune Deep in a Dream, which is oddly not a tune that's played a lot, certainly not recorded a lot. Commitment, which is a great Harold Vick tune. And so I put a lot of thought into what I record on every record, because I like to do new things and different things. And, you know, Dave ixnayed a couple of things. He nixed a couple of things, said, no, I'm not down with that, or I'm not down with that. And you know, then Dave came to Vancouver. We played the music. Actually, I went to New York and played a gig doing the music, and he came to Vancouver for 2 nights. We played the music, and then we flew to LA, and I felt like I was kind of ready to go because I'd played through the music a bunch, you know, and that's the way to do it. So,
boy, were you? That's
the
quickest session Coherent's ever had. You guys just nailed it.
So was it over a couple of days, the session?
It should have been, but it wasn't.
We did it in 4 hours.
Well, that's good.
4 hours.
Which is, oddly enough, that's the typical length of Blue Note sessions back in Hackensack. I mean, they were 4-hour sessions.
Yeah.
And these guys, they came in ready to go. And so, you know, our job, Kevin and me, was just capture it, make sure everything's happening and capture it. Give feedback if feedback's needed. Stay out of the way. Let the guys do their thing.
I was going to ask what your approach was, Joe. So So it sounds like, you basically wanted to kind of get them in the room and support them however they needed.
Yeah.
And so Cory, in terms of kind of the process and the recording style, for people who don't know, Kevin, you have this all tube system. It's set up in a small room and it's recorded. Everybody plays together at the same time. No headphones or anything like that. So it is kind of in the style of like the 50s Hackensack session.
Right. Mixed straight to 2-track. No overdubs or multi-track or any of that.
Yeah.
No
so
headphones either.
Yeah.
So Cory, what did you think about kind of that part of the project?
I mean, there's something amazing about it, because I think when you're in booths and you have headphones and you're all separated, there's actually more of a you would think that would be the opposite, but there's more of a what's the word, to try to make it perfect. Like, if we just edit that, it'll sound perfect. And then you come out and maybe it sounds perfect, but it's not as real. Whereas when you're in this situation, and we had issues just like I'm sure they had back in the day with Hackensack. Dave is a tall guy, so the cymbal was too close to his ear, and we couldn't move the piano, and then the bass was kind of being funny, and it was a very real session. It felt like exactly the way it would go down, 70 years ago, where you go into this situation and you deal with the elements. Now, at the end of the day, you deal with the elements because it's going to sound incredible, and so it's worth dealing with. But it gives it a more real feel. Like it's a real feel. We didn't go back and change anything. If we did it, I don't even think we did any insert potentials. I think we just did takes, and you're like, you guys are happy, we're happy. So it's a very freeing experience to do it that way. It's a little nerve-wracking. Like leading up to the session, I was very nervous about that whole concept. But then I was like, man, if you don't like it, just do another take. It's fine.
Right.
And again, you have a producer there and the record label owner there who is going to say, yep, we like that. And at the end of the day, if the guy paying the bills and the guy who's being paid to produce are happy, I'm cool. I have learned over so many years to just, I can't judge myself. It doesn't mean I don't like my records. I don't mean that, but I can't make an objective judgment on myself. I
close to it.
I can't do it. I'm way too close to it.
Yeah.
Very common with artists to have that.
To be in that room, to be in that room so close together and kind of right in there. For me, it was very cool. I enjoyed it. That setting of all in the same room, straight to tape, is also, pressure in itself. So it's like, I think you switch a little bit. Some people would tighten up, I think. I found it very freeing because it's like, just let go. It's just like, I used to do a radio show and I did it live. And then I stopped doing it live and I do it pre-tape now. And I hate it because it's like, oh, I coughed, or, my voice was, I stuttered, I didn't use the right word. Let me go back and fix that. And at the end of the day, it's like, it drives me crazy. If it was live, it's gone and away it goes and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just from a listener, I mean, I love when I'm listening to an old record and I'm just like, oh, Miles sounded not so perfect there, which which happens quite often in the early stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Happens in these situations. I mean, having done a million live sessions, but in studios where there is isolation, so much time gets spent messing with people's headphone mixes. I mean, hours can go, could I get more of this? Can I get, and, we didn't have headphones, neither did they have them back in the 50s. And so what happens is the band, as they do live on a gig, what happens? They balance themselves dynamically. And Cory brings up a good point about Byron. Byron, as a smart cat, looks around, it's like, okay, we're in here tight, we're in this room, I'm going to adjust myself dynamically to fit the situation. just like you do on a gig and like you did in the old days recording. You know, people all had to adjust their dynamics.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Contrary to that, though, I would say Byron was probably the loudest drummer I've had. Not counting
Really?
the
Wow.
Garth Powell test, but but yeah, he played loud, he played hard, but we were able to accommodate him, and I'm happy with the results.
no problem.
Yeah.
I think too, like we'll never know, but I mean, like if Hank were alive today or any number of those people, I think they would laugh at the modern day musician and just go, "You guys are such wimps," you know, like. And I know there was an element. I don't mean to suggest for 1 minute that they didn't care, but you know, they wanted their money and they wanted to go off to do the things that they were doing, but they would just come in and it, like, you listen to those old recordings and you think like, why, like that's the way it should sound. And like you said, I think it was you, Kevin, about like wasted time with, I can't, the bass frequency is weird. And I think the high D above middle C, like there's a unison that's a little bit out. And it's like, oh my God, just play and don't worry. Like, this, everything needs to sound perfect mentality is, I think those guys would have laughed. I think those guys really would have laughed,
Well, the bottom line is, I think that kind of thing is non-musical. It's anti-music.
Yep. All the blemishes. I mean, there's so many of them. There's so many blemishes that you could point out on so many records that make them so great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Things get too sterile sometimes with all the fixes.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And there's people who would vehemently disagree with us, but I coming from where I come from and the music that I love and the years that music was recorded. I mean, that's how, that's how that's where I live. I live in that era, like wanting to do how they did it. And I've recorded in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, like the Rudy Van Gelder studio now. And, you want to be in the same room. That room sounds really good. You want to be in these booths. It's like, to me, it defeats the purpose.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Going back to the session, so 7 songs, they're around 6 minutes each. So and it comes across very economical in terms of time, but I think what is presented there, the final product is amazing. And to your point, guys, I think if you're not worried about too much about perfection, if you're having fun doing it, right, I think it comes across. The music gets a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, it's good that you said that, because I didn't touch on that, but you're right. I mean, I just when I think about that session, I'm actually not even thinking about the music we made. I'm thinking about how much fun I had. I think a lot about the soup that Charlene made that we had in the break. Yeah. I'm not thinking a lot about the great chats with Joe and the whole process. For me, the music is just a part of what that process was. I mean, I realize that's the main part, but if you get that it was fun, then we've definitely done a job. Yeah, we did what I was paid to do, and that's to go down and make a fun, joyous sounding session. So that actually means a lot. But it's the whole process for me was really exciting. From the time we got on the plane here to the time we left, it was fun. I look back at that time going, that was a good time.
Yeah. Have you listened to the recording yet?
I have.
I hope so.
I listened to the test press. So the way it usually works is I take time away. And this one is also a little different because I take time away and then I listen. And then I don't like it, and then I go back and I like it, and then I go back and I don't like it. It just goes back and forth. But usually, I don't even think I have the original digital files to pick the takes but the only copy I have is the test pressing. And so what's happened is it got buried with all the other records that I bought. So I'm trying to hide them from my wife all the time and make my shelves look like I haven't brought new records in. So I haven't listened to this record as much, and the only reason is because the perceived access I have to the record is much less than other records, because I'm listening to digital files in my car or CD or so. And I'm excited to get the package. I'm excited to hold the real record in my hand. I think the cover is
We will be too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, can
And
you guys
so-
put that up? You have the art, right?
I think from the in-group. So I have a question for you, Cory, on that sense. By looking at your whole discography, you can tell each single cover of yours where it kind of came from, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So can you tell me more about why you picked the Sonny Rollins cover to be the inspiration for this cover?
Well, yeah, I mean, so that's one of my favorite records of all time. You know, The Sound of Sonny. Usually, well, so let me back up. Yeah, there it is. Let me back up a little bit and say that the other cool thing that was really neat about dealing with Kevin and Joe is that I just assumed you're paying the money. Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm just going to go there and play music and go home. Like I remember I got an email from Kevin that made me laugh. He's like, "Hey, are you okay if we use Brian Bixby for photos?" And I'm like, first of all, I don't know who that is. Secondly, like it's your party. You can use whoever you want. So they involved me in every step of the way, which is really, really cool.
And we used your graphics guy, who we're very happy with.
Yes, and he's awesome.
John Sellards is amazing.
Such a great guy. And so
we're going to be using him in the future too.
Yeah, he's such a beautiful guy. And I don't know, I just saw that picture of me pointing. There's one other photo that I liked from that session, but I saw that picture of me pointing. And I don't know, to me it just came, I'm like, that, that's it. And I have an interesting name, of course. And as you said, I think you've looked at my discography. Like we have The Many Deeds of Cory Weeds, Everything's Coming Up Weeds. And I thought, oh, Dig Weeds. And the only thing I'm not disappointed, but there were actually in Kevin's backyard of that house, there were actually like shovels and hoes and wheelbarrows. I'm like, man, we could really have a good time with this. I thought better of it. And I just thought, like, I don't know, it was a statement. The picture, I liked the picture. I kind of came into focus when I got home. I was like, Sonny Rollins, The Sound of Sonny. And, John is really good at taking a concept and disguising it. Now, of course, any jazz aficionado is going to see that cover right away and be like, I know where that came from. But let's face it, there aren't many jazz aficionados out there. So that to the layperson buying the record, they're just gonna be like, "Oh, that's the greatest!" Wow, how did you come up with that?
Yeah,
he's good at disguising it, and I don't know. It just felt, what it is. Also, it's a fun cover.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's fun.
We're very happy with it.
The saxophone is what's in focus, right? That's interesting too.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful horn, and I just it turned out really good. I was just happy with the whole thing.
Well, there's so much going on here, so I feel like the throwback is real because one, like you mentioned, Dig Weeds is a play on your name, and that like Blue Train, Training In, like this was a common thing that was done with everybody that had any type of name that could be fit into a phrase. That was the name of the album.
Yeah.
Also, in the picture, you have the curtains, which the Hackensack sessions are kind of like famous for Rudy's mother's curtains. So that was kind of cool to see that as part of the Cohearent Records, album art discography. So there's a lot of cool stuff. And even you pointing, like Lee Morgan on take 12, he's pointing. So like the whole thing just works. And on the live stream, on the live stream, we're always showing records and talking about records and trying to explain what the records sound like. And this is probably one of the most challenging things to do, right? Like, how do you explain what this jazz record sounds like? So rather than me do it, the style of this record, Cory, how would you kind of describe it for people who are interested in checking this out?
So, yeah, you talk about throwback and you talk about, what's the word? Is derivative the word I'm looking for? But I live in throwback. So, I've always said innovation is overrated. I said, if somebody comes up and say, you sound like this person, to me, that's a compliment. I don't ever need somebody to come up to me and say, wow, man, you're really pushing the envelope and doing something new. having said that, I think a sound is individual, and I think writing is something that you can do. Writing is something that you can do to sort of make things different, not new, but different. And then tune selection are important things. So I think this record combines kind of my reverence for Hank Mobley and Sonny and Gene Ammons, but it's also, I think what this record does is it shows that I like a wider scope of music than just Hank Mobley. Like there's a nod to Harold Vick in there, who is not somebody that a lot of people know. My love of Cedar Walton, by us doing Martha's Prize.
Yeah.
We did some tributes to our fallen friend Jim Rotundi, and within those two tunes there is some more modern type harmonies. I mean, when I say modern type, it's not like we're pushing the envelope, but it's not a Hank Mobley tribute record. So I wanted a diverse, within what I like to play, I wanted some diverse material. I really liked the ballad that I wrote. I was happy with the way that turned out. I was really happy with I get mixed up between the tune that David wrote for Jim, which is also great, and mine, but I was really happy with the way that turned out. I think Deep in a Dream is great. It's like a throwback to a really classic tune from a classic recording for me, but kind of done in a new way. So it's just kind of a record that takes some familiar material and we put a little spin on it. And again, I don't feel like I'm explaining it very well, but it's
Right.
it's not a throwback, but it is a throwback, and I'm okay with it being a throwback. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I'm writing some tunes and we're doing some arrangements of tunes, and so I think it's great. But it's a fun record. It's a fun record, and it's a personal record from the standpoint of Jim Rotundi, for sure, who was very important to both David and myself. So it was nice to be able to pay tribute to him too.
You have a good point, Cory. I mean, I listened to the whole record already. First of all, the vinyl pressing sounds incredible, and that's it. It doesn't. It's a throwback, but not as a copy. It's just like redoing it. You really have your contemporary or your own flavors palette to it. It comes across as a modern recording, but you still feel that club feeling from the 50s there, for sure. You kind of have a sense of both, and I think the measurements are perfect on each one. It doesn't sound like you're just trying to.
Cory's got his own sound, and I think he, correct me if I'm wrong, but he comes up in an era like I do, Kevin. We're saxophone players, all musicians, but we tenor players all had a sound. Like you'd hear Coleman Hawkins, you'd be like, "That's Bean," right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not as common these days. I mean, everybody can play. Everyone can play notes perfectly. They're all well schooled. All this, but having their own sound, and Cory's got he's got his voice, which is, like I say, is something that's not so common, and it's a great voice,
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Getting into the kind of production piece of this, so Kevin, you worked with Mobile Fidelity, their new pressing plant, for this release. Is that correct?
Well, Mobile Fidelity is not really involved. The pressing plant is just owned by them. But Fidelity Record Pressing, I worked with Rick Hashimoto, and he's been lobbying for us to try them, and I couldn't be more pleased with the results so far.
No, it came flawless. Sonically, it's really good. It's flat, no issues. I was impressed, and I bought some recent records from Mobile Fidelity from the new plant too. And
there's nobody better than Rick.
Yeah, they're doing excellent job. So now, label-wise, Kevin, you reached number 3 already. So there's 3 of them. There's a podium already there, right?
Yeah.
I feel like as the quality standards, they're always like up to the highest. I feel always there's a little element there, a little extra. Every records have been building up. I believe so, musically and sonically, especially. I remember when you talked about Anthony's record, you said, "Oh, I didn't do anything different from I did from Kirsten's record." And would you still maintain the same for now, or you think any tweaks to the system or to the approach, to the positioning the band from experience you had before?
Well, I think,
And
yeah, I
Joe
think
as
I
well. How
learn
did
on
you
every
guys?
single
What was your
session.
approach to that?
I think I learn on something from every single session that I could apply to the next one. So yes, I did some things a little bit differently on this than I had on some previous, but it's all in the same vein. It's the best way I can say it.
I see. And Coherent as a label, is it as you were imagining it would be at this point?
Oh, he's making millions.
I would have loved I would have loved to have had about 3 more records out by now, but you got to do what you got to do. And I'm pretty darn busy with my 9 to 5 mastering job. So yeah, for the time being, I think we'll be doing good to get one a year out.
Yeah, it seems like we spoke a little bit off camera last time you swung by, Kevin, and it seems like you kind of have the support system in place. You have, I think you said your wife is helping out a little bit. You have Mike set up for distribution down in Phoenix. You have Joe, who's involved in the production, and you're kind of set up now to kind of move forward and really kind of focus on getting artists in there and just focusing on the music projects themselves.
Right.
So that seems like you're in a really good place. And I guess, yeah, I mean, any things you could announce for the future? Any new things to share?
Not yet.
Okay.
Talking to some people. We'll kind of see where it goes. Staying with jazz for the time being. I got a couple of other things I want to do down the road, but not right away.
So secretive. I love it.
Well, you know what is interesting in the music community, people are aware, and the cats all talk to each other, and so a lot of people are aware of what's going on at Coherent, and so there's not so much explaining that needs to be done. A lot of them are very aware, and they know results are good, and so that's important for people too. There's a trust.
I was pleasantly surprised when Shar and I were in New York a year ago. We had just finished doing Anthony's record. It wasn't out yet. And we were at a show at Smoke, and Tamir Handelman was the pianist. And I had seen him several times with Jeff Hamilton's trio in the old days. And so I went up and introduced myself, and I told him, that I had seen him play live with Jeff. and I said, as a matter of fact, we just did an album with Jeff. And he goes, wait a minute. Are you that guy with the studio in the Valley? I went, yeah. I was shocked that he knew. I guess he talked to Jeff.
Yeah. Hackensack West.
It's a small community. It's a small community, the jazz community. That's what makes it so cool.
Yep.
It's really a fun space for us to operate in as enthusiasts and people who are passionate about the music. The fact that it's a small community allows us to kind of engage with you guys. So we've had, some of our favorite, guests have been like Jerome Saba, who is doing his own kind of AAA recording efforts. The guys from JMI who are interested in that type of technology. So Kevin is also part of that, and it's just been a fun kind of experience to be able to kind of go down, because it helps kind of, it adds to just the fun listening experience. And, we know that a lot of people who are viewing this are very passionate about all different aspects of the music. There are some people who aren't so much into jazz, but they love the fact that the sonics of this are just outstanding, and it's just done at the top level possible. And then there's also jazz crazy bums that, are into this as well, and just looking for the next new thing. So Cory, what is next for you? Are you gigging anywhere, or any new records you're working on in the future?
Yeah, my life is a total gong show. Really, it's a total gong show. I'm trying to raise my children to become, contributing members of society. And they're doing good. But yeah, I'm really lucky. I feel very blessed. I feel like I've worked really hard There's been some luck along the way, but I've worked really hard, and I'm really passionate about the music, and so I get to wake up every day and think about jazz. You know, for myself personally, like from a musical standpoint, I have a record coming out that I did with Jerry Weldon. So it's a 2-tenor record, which I'm really proud of. And then, you know, my label continues to somehow, I've been saying this for, you know, 10 years. I've been trying to put my label out of business for 15 years, and it will not go away. And so it's fun because I don't, you know, I'm going to venture to guess, although Kevin and I have never talked about this, that it's sort of the same thing. Like I don't need my label to feed my family or to pay my mortgage. So for me, it's fun, you know, and it's become a very, very big part of my whole umbrella. But I don't have to lose sleep every night about a record not doing well and then not being able to eat, you know, next month. So it's fun for me. So you know, I love the music, and I want people to love the music as much as I love it. That's really you know, that's really why I do this. And I get to have some great opportunities like this one with Kevin. And so, yeah, so I'm gigging, I'm doing, I play every night this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for the next 4 days. I subbed out of a gig last night because I had a logistical family issue. So yeah, so I'm playing and trying to stay in shape and trying to keep up with some of these young cats that are coming up that are sounding really incredible. And so yeah, so I'm immersed in the music, and then I have my, you know, my collector side, you know, where I'm buying records. And I was just out in a suburb of Vancouver today, as a matter of fact. Elderly gentleman passed away who was a big presenter of music here in Vancouver in like the 60s. And so I picked up like 1,200 LPs and 7 boxes of books and photos and like all this crazy stuff. And you know, so it's like, and I'm so excited. I'm like a kid in a candy shop. It's like, you know, pictures of my heroes from, you know, some I never got to meet, who, you know, Vancouver's got quite a rich jazz history. So, so, you know, there's that side. I'm trying to listen to all these records I'm buying from Tone Poet, and, you know, I'm just like stack stuff I got to do, you know. So I'm cool. I have a great life. I'm very blessed.
That's nice. I mean, Vancouver is a great scene. You were just portrayed in a book that came out last year, right, about the Vancouver jazz scene.
Oh, you heard about that book?
Yes.
That's a really, really good book. Yeah. Journeys to the Bandstand. That's a very, very good read. Yeah, it's a great book.
Exactly. Yeah, you're part of one of the chapters in the book. Yeah,
I got 2. I was mad at him. I wanted 3. And I thought I deserved 3 chapters. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's a really nice book, and he interviews like several people that aren't around anymore, like Lonnie Smith and Joey DeFrancesco. Yeah, it's very Harold Mabry. Actually, no, Harold is not in that book, but yeah, it's a good book. And Vancouver has a really deep and very rich history. So.
And Joe, how's it going? Are you? So I know you're multifaceted. You have obviously the series that you're working on, Tone Poet, and then you also are producing. Any interesting things you can share with us?
Well, as we were talking before we started here, I mean, we just finished a new record with Charles. That is, I'm biased, but honest to God, I mean, dude's 86 years old. 87, excuse me, and he turned 87 at the session, actually, and he sounds ridiculous. He sounds amazing.
Very nice.
So yeah, we've been going through takes and doing mixes and stuff like that.
Does he live in New York, or does he live out west?
He lives in Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did he keep the same band for this new one, Joe?
This is a trio. So Jason Moran and
Larry.
Sorry, Larry? No, and Marvin Sewell on guitar. So yeah, there's like Marvin's a very interesting cat, brilliant player, but kind of there's a Delta aspect to what's going on, and so it's just a trio. So a lot of space, and anyway. That's
And if
That's-
I could, so I know that for Tone Poet, you have some really fun things that you discover. Like you have the transition series, you have that Art Pepper intro. Any other kind of unique labels that you're exploring for Tone Poet that I can get out of you?
well, we're getting into the Capitol catalog,
Yeah.
so Sir Shaloff is coming out in December, November. I have to look at my schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always, and then there's a box set coming in the fall. It's there is no downtime. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
When's my Kenny Burrell coming, man?
Kenny Burrell's coming next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the Liberty pressing of the Kenny Burrell, and it looks clean, but it plays with noise. And I've actually heard that the early pressings were like noisy. So when I got that Liberty, I was pretty disappointed with the sound of it. So, and I know later pressings do sound better, but I'm definitely going to get this this Kenny Burrell. Is it the 5-spot? Is that right?
That's the 5-spot.
5-spot, and then it's the complete. It's a 3-record set. So
it's really impressive. I was impressed with the quality. It's just great, and the booklet as well. I mean, everything that's there in that book, complementing, giving background, understanding what was going on in that session, Joe. I think it's up to the same level of even like maybe a little tweak better than the Sonny Rollins from last year. It's just like
gotta raise the bar.
Of course, I was really impressed with that one. I think it's going to be a big hit, and of course, I pre-ordered mine. And just another thing, Joe, I find I'm a subscriber to the Tone Poet series, to the club, and I think one of the greatest things is not only having
Cory's a member too, by the way.
Yeah, well, I think one of the greatest things.
I'm still waiting for my 20-minute phone call too.
And Cory,
to get 20 minutes with Joe. They're delinquent in that delivery of that perk.
Right.
15 minutes and I'm cutting you off, Cory. Yeah, don't go a second over.
Yeah, but I think, Joe, to speaking the truth, the greatest point of the subscription is to read your journal. That's the things that you've been writing there and talking about not what you're doing and putting a whole like background on every record that you've been chosen and why. I found amazing this month explaining the Art Pepper choice with
I'm a very
Teddy Edwards. It was great. I mean, and people love it. I mean, it helps a lot. I think it adds with the great liner notes that you guys been including from folks like Sid Schwartz, for example. And I think those perks are great. People just think about the value of the records are going to be cheaper, or I'm getting a pin or whatever. I think that's the real treasure there. What you guys are giving us is, priceless.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
By the way, I make my wife wear that pin 24/7.
I do want to go back. Joe, have you ever heard any issues with the first pressing of that Kenny Burrell? Like, have you ever heard an original copy, and were there any issues?
Yeah, I've got one. No.
Okay.
I mean, I've got an OG copy of it. I mean, I like what Kevin and I did better. I mean, honest to God, once I get the tests, I put the original away. I don't play it again.
Yeah. Before we let you go, so the Tone Poet kind of effort is to get what's on the tape onto the record as close as possible, right? So I know that there's like a lot of debate if you like the early pressings, the OGs versus some of the reissues, and I always say it's just they're offering two different things.
Yes.
So
look, Cory's got the record.
Yeah, this is a Japanese pressing though, but I'm gonna pull it out and listen to see.
What do you got there? Which one's that?
The Kenny.
It's a Japanese pressing.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, it's a struggle because like I love the early pressings because just the vintage of it.
Yeah.
But the prices are very high. Like they just are sometimes extraordinary, and then you can get that classic series or the Tone Poet for completely affordable and generally, obviously, I guess it's subjective, but it sounds closer to the tape. If that's better, if you think that's better, then I won't.
I think if Rudy were around today, that they would probably sound a bit more like this, because Rudy ended up not liking LPs. And I kind of understand why, because from his perspective, pardon my dog, she's crawling all over me. Ella Fitzgerald, who sounds nothing like here. There's your face. Yeah. But from his perspective, they were a pain in the ass. You know, like he had to do all this stuff. He compressed, he rolled the low end, you know. So I get why he eventually said, to hell with it, I'm going digital, because he had to do all that stuff. I think if he were around now and realized, you know, the standard has come up so much higher and people's playback systems are better, and you don't have to do all those compromises, I think he'd have a different point of view.
Yeah. Because it was not only him, right? The whole industry as a whole had to tweak and compress and do things just so it could be played. It's not
compromises everywhere.
Do you guys know Tom? What's his last name? Tom Cohen, the Bop Shop in Rochester.
I know the Bop Shop. Yeah.
So that's like Tom is a beautiful guy, and it's one of my favorite record stores I've ever been in. And I don't get out there very often, but I was out there I was playing actually with Hazeltine at the Rochester Festival a couple years ago. And I rented a car and I drove out to his shop, and I was shocked when I went in, because I've never seen inventory like he had in a used record store, like original pressings of, and then I started doing a little research. He wasn't there. Then when he came in, I'm like, Tom, what's going on? He's like, oh, these are all from my personal collection. And I got really sad because I thought, oh, he's selling off. And I'm like, why would you do that? And he's like a diehard vinyl guy. And he said, because I can sell this original pressing of whatever record on Blue Note, I A/B it with the Tone Poets, and the Tone Poet sounds better. So what am I doing? What am I doing holding on to this $1,000 or $1,500, $2,000 record when I get this one for $50 and it sounds better? I was like, wow, actually, he's the reason I kind of paid more attention to the Tone Poet series. I don't have many original things, so I couldn't do the A/B. But if Tom said they sounded that good, then I trusted him. Yeah, it was crazy.
No, for sure. And I think you don't even have to have like a great system to testify that. It just comes across. So you're a record collector. Are you also into gear?
Talking to me?
Yes.
I mean, I'm frustrated with my system every day. I would say maybe my whole system brand new would be maybe, I don't know, maybe $10,000, maybe. I just want it to sound good, you know. But I've had I went to Tube Gear, and you know, there's always some little buzzing, or there's always some little issue that's like making me crazy, you know. And then my buddy is like, "Wow, that's Tube Gear. That's why you do it. It's, you know, see if you can get through it without, you know, going mad." But I'm not a gear guy. I remember before I got this system, I had a very, very modest system. And I had the Music Matters. I had a Roll Call, which is I think it's Roll Call. It was a Music Matters thing, 45. And I put it on, and I'm like, it sounds like Hank Mobley is right in my living room. I don't really know what amount of money could make that. Like, he sounds like I could hear everything in 3D, and it sounded like he was in my living room.
Yeah.
I'm like, and my system was, I don't know, maybe $5,000. I'm like, it doesn't get any better than that. It sounds like he's right here.
No, yeah.
So I don't get too wrapped up in gear. But I mean, I have some nice stuff, you know.
That's a good way to keep sane.
Yeah.
The records are.
Yeah, let's put it this way. Yeah, but Roll Call, I think, is a great example. I have this Music Matters 45, and I have an original copy. Yeah, it's just a different level. Yeah. Because there's so much stuff, especially in the first tracks, like, and I think the original too much. The Music Matters just see everything there. It's pretty cool.
And Kevin just listens to the tape.
I listen to the presses when I get them.
Yeah,
I'm getting them now. So yeah.
All right. So well, we'll link to the pre-order on the InGrooves website.
Okay.
So you can check that out. Now it does say it's scheduled to ship April 18th. It looks like there's a bit of a delay, so just kind of check that. But I think we're all excited to get our third Coherent Records issue. So Felipe,
Great.
any final words?
No. Again, thank you, Cory, so much. It was a lot of fun having you here.
Anytime, and
really great.
Thank you. And I'm honored and flattered and completely overwhelmed that I was given the opportunity. I can't wait to get it, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, no, we like your work, and Cellar Music is a label that I always like portray. I'm always showing like new releases, new music, and there's always a handful of Cellar Music, almost like weekly. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, our output is a little insane at the moment, but
yeah, how much stuff you guys been putting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin, again for making music so great, sounding to our ears, and working so many different genres and specializing sort of in jazz. And Joe for being such source of knowledge, inspiration, and kindness. Always available, always super great with us, and yeah.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely. And Joe, we need to get you back on one-on-one and drill you on some Tone Poet news. So please join us again. And Cory, the door's open if you ever want to come on and promote anything. I'm sure Felipe will be following up with you and bother you.
Yeah. I'd be happy to anytime. I love talking about the music, so anytime.
Absolutely. And Kevin, as always, thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to have all three of you here.
You're most welcome.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
Please drop a comment, share this with your friends, and we'll see you guys next time.